Guys, Christian here with YOLOtek. Man, I'll tell you what, you talk about a wild event on the water, and what do we always say? Always be recording. I want to introduce everybody to Jeff Clark right here. How's it going, Jeff?
Pretty good. I'm alive and here. That's the main thing.
You know, it's an amazing story. Can you kind of share with us what that morning was like when you first woke up and kind of what happened during your day, and then we'll bring up that video.
Well, I woke up wanting to get out there and get the top water first thing. And, of course, I worked all week wanting that day. And I had limited fishing time. I had to get my son to work by 10:30 that morning. So I was hitting it. I was headed out, going to do it to it. And my rods came loose. I had a Velcro strap, and I shoved all my rods underneath one strap, and I had all my lures on so I wouldn't have to waste any time tying on, you know. And once I reached up to about 60 miles an hour, they came loose from the strap, swung around, hit me in the face. And my first instinct was just to grab the rods and stick them over behind the other console and keep on trucking. And while I was doing that, I was distracted. And I think there was a couple of bigger boats out there that day. I don't think it come from one of the major league guys because they don't cut a very big wake. But
right.
There was a pretty good wave come up, and I hit it at a bad angle. And of course, to me, I just felt the impact. It all happened real fast. I felt the steering wheel cut through my hand real fast to the right, just as sharp as it could go, doing 60, 65 mile an hour, which I blame on cable steering. I just didn't have a tight enough grip on it. And Skeet Reese, he saw it a little better than the camera did, and he said that it just kind of shot me up, and I bow hooked, done about a 180, and brought the rear end around, and it slapped the water and stopped the boat instantly and just blew the hull apart. And that's when I was ejected into the water. So at that point, it was just noise and the water.
And water waking you up.
Yeah, so my jacket brought me right back to the surface real quick. I seen my boat was sitting still, so I started swimming toward it, but I noticed something wasn't right, and it was starting to take on water. And I saw my tackle bag sitting in the passenger console side. So I was swimming for it, wanting to get it, and Skeet just showed up out of nowhere, pulled up beside me. He goes, "Where you going, man? Where you going?" I said, my tackle bag. He goes, "No, man, stay away from the boat. You first. Come here. You all right?" I said, "All right, here." I stuck my hands up. He grabbed me by both arms and just, I mean, literally deadlifted me into the boat and set me right on my feet. It was amazing.
He's a pretty strong guy, man.
Yeah, he set me right.
He's got a huge body. He's strong.
Yeah. I ran to the front, of course, you know, to get as close as I could to my boat, hoping I could make one more attempt to grab that bag. But the boat rolled over the direction I was swimming toward it. So I realized that if it wasn't for Skeet, I could have been trapped under the boat or got hung up under the boat trying to save my tackle.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff happens like that. Let's take a step back. So what ramp did you put in at, or was your boat already on the water that morning?
I had put in at Indian Point that morning.
At Indian Point.
So I was probably only about a mile out from the wake zone from Indian Point, and I was going to go straight across to what the locals call Combs Ferry or Old JJ Campground.
Okay.
And there's some nice long shallow points there that run. They start out about 2 foot of water in the trees, and then they'll run out to about 35, 40 feet. Then it just drops off, goes down to 100 feet after that. And it is a perfect spawning area for smallmouth and spotted bass. And they've been hitting top water because the shad spawn was starting to fire up. Water temperature was about 70 degrees that day. So I was anxious to get at them. And I was just going to shoot through between everybody and get on over there.
Yeah, you can see way out in the distance. You can see another Major League Fishing pro going through. You're way out in front of Skeet. There's no danger here or anything. And
now Skeet said he had room to get by, so I figured there was room. So yeah, I was just going to shoot on across. If you see the point, the timber point on the left.
Over here?
Yeah, on the left of the view that you have right now.
Yep.
Right where the tallest part of the timber is, that's the point I was headed for, right there.
And so again, you have 2 consoles in your boat.
Yes.
And you had all your rods were on your port or left-hand side of your boat, and they were all secured down with Velcro?
Yeah, it had a Velcro strap that came with the boat originally. It still had the Charger emblem on it. So it
And
was a
about how
nice.
many rods? Not that it matters. People
Oh,
always
I had 5 rods crammed under it to where the Velcro was stretched pretty tight to touch itself.
I see.
And the Velcro was getting old. And I also had lure protectors on because I had topwater plugs and stuff. So I had some Bass Pro Velcro lure protectors on. And one mistake I made is I had a lizard on and I wanted to keep it fresh and oil. So I put a Ziploc baggie on it. Of course, it had air in it. So basically, the ends of my rods just caught all that air and it ripped the Velcro loose.
So all those fishing poles come up over the console towards you on your console.
Yeah, they were against the passenger console. All the reels and the back ends of the rods was against the other console. So when they lifted up, they just came my way.
Came right at your face.
Yeah, they hit me in the face, dropped down across my arms. I had a couple with swim baits on them that I hadn't covered. So I'm thinking hooks.
Right.
So I just one-handed grabbed all the poles in one hand, and I just tried to set them over behind the other console and keep going, because it would have been a bad time really to pull off throttle because I was going between the pros and they were spaced out evenly and I'd already took my whole shot. So I just wanted to get out of their way, go on across. But that little bit of a distraction, I didn't see a wave and I didn't get steered into it. So I hit it kind of at a 45 or a 35-degree angle. So that lifted the front of the boat, and when the back of the boat hit it, it jerked the cable steering on my engine right through the palm of my hand that I still had on the steering wheel. And from there, it was just total loss of control. That's when Skeet said that it took a bow dip off the wave, and then the rear end went up off the wave. And since the wheel cut all the way to the right, it kind of spun me in a 180 and just crashed the whole left side of the boat, just hit the water and stopped immediately, and it blew it apart. It separated the hull from the bottom of the boat. And
so let's pick up now. We're on the this is Skeet's boat here, Skeet Reese's boat, and he's running the boom with a Garmin VIRB, and we'll just watch this for a second. It doesn't take very long in here, and boom, you see the big splash there.
There's the splash, yeah.
And then you can watch the front of his boat. He immediately turns.
Oh, I
he
know.
also takes a perfect path instead of coming right at you, which could be dangerous. He takes this perfect kind of a sloping path. Then he sees you in the water. And what does he say here?
I think he said, "Where are you going?" Because I was swimming towards a boat, and I said,
"Here's his the Major League Fishing official."
Yeah, I think that was Clint Johnson.
What was his name?
Clint Johnson, I believe it was his name, and he threw his vest off and ran up front because he thought he might have to jump in the water, as a rescue. So he took his inflatable off and ran up to the bow.
Then, so now he's bent over thinking that he's going to grab you, but Skeet's already got the route that he wanted to take right here.
Well, Skeet was going to put himself right to me, and he did.
He did.
And
now, the angle of the VIRB was a little up high, so you can't see you coming up, but right now we see your left hand reaching out. What's on your left wrist, bud?
That's my kill switch, and the first thing I said was, "Look at there, boys, that just saved my ass," was my exact words.
It's absolutely dead true. That, and what are you wearing?
I've got a ski vest on. It's got a zipper and 2 buckles, and your arms go all the way through it. I always preferred those because they're made to hit the water, sometimes when you wipe out skiing, and they do not come off. It was a good vest. But you can see, if you look at the boat, you can see my huge tackle bag. I mean, it's right there in the seat.
Yep, right there.
Right, that's what I was after. I didn't want to lose that because everything I've gathered for years was cramped. I mean, I had I had everything you could imagine in there. You
And
could
what kind of boat do you have here?
do what now?
What kind of boat?
That's a Charger. It's an 18'6" Charger dual console, and it has a 150 Johnson Fast Strike on it. It was a nice mint condition boat. Some people keep classic cars. I kept a classic boat. I mean,
It is a beautiful boat. Now, you have no idea the amount of damage that has been done to your boat here, but you can tell just it listing in the water the way it is and the engine's almost submerged that we got major problems here.
Yeah, my first impression since I seen the back hatch blown open, I was thinking it was just taking on water that way. I wasn't aware at that time that the boat had separated. It actually, from the first tie off on the bow, all the way around the back corner and all the way across the transom over to the other side where you fuel it, was completely destroyed, and it was just sucking in water.
We're going to jump to some pictures here and see. You see those okay?
Yes.
So there you are. Kill switch on the left wrist, just how you had it. And there's your life vest right there. Personal flotation device, man. So important. So important.
It saved me. There's no doubt about it.
And there, look at the damage right here. The whole side.
That's when they got it out. Yeah. They took it out of the water for me. Towboat US got it on the trailer for me. And actually, the separation was even worse than that. If you look to the back of the boat toward the end, you see wires hanging out. My trolling motor batteries went through that opening.
Well, right through here?
Right through that opening.
Jumped right out.
Yeah, and one battery was lost, the other one was still in, and you can see the wiring harness.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, that was hooked to the trolling motor batteries. They just shot right through the hole.
Wow. Think of the force that it.
That was I hit hard. It stopped that boat instantly.
You know, we can't even say it enough, and we'll say it over and over and over, that wearing your kill switch, wearing your PFD is just the most crucial moment right here. Luckily, Skeet came and saved you, but if you had hit something on the way in and knocked unconscious, then the boat would have stopped and you'd be floating.
Right. Yes. If I hadn't, the wheel, on a cape, usually when you're under power and you lose control of your motor, it turns all the way to the right as sharp as it'll go and just hits the transom.
Yep.
So if it would have kept running, it would have kept the split side up in the air as it was turning the circles, and it probably wouldn't have sank. It would have just kept spinning in circles, and I would have been right there with it. So that kill switch, I guarantee the kill switch saved me. Now you can see the two cracks right there by the first tie.
Yeah, look at the stress fractures in there.
Yeah, and it goes from there all the way through the consoles. It tweaked the deck on it to where the hatches don't even close anymore. And then of course it broke the passenger console on both sides. The floorboard even bowed up underneath the passenger console. But the hull of the boat actually didn't crack. It's still together. But
it's an amazing,
all
the impact
and everything that held the boat together just shattered.
All right, let's jump back to the video.
That looks like Towboat US there.
Yeah, we'll jump back to that because, I mean, there's a lot of angels in our lives that move through our lives and we never see them until something like this happens.
Yes. Now we should see the boat go ahead and roll over.
Yep. And so now we hear other voices. Who are the other voices?
There was some other boats pulling up. I'm not for sure who all they were yet.
Yeah, I think I know there's some Major League pros. I think Aaron Martins and several other had come by as well.
And then out of the right-hand view, Billy Fuller and his son out of Oklahoma were there as spectators, and they started coming over to aid also.
That's awesome.
I don't know if they get caught in the frame or not, but I wound up with 3, I think, major league boats and Billy Fuller.
Are you by yourself? Yes.
What a brilliant. So now the major league official asks a very important question that I think a lot of us would not. We're in the heat of the moment. We're, pulling you out of the water. But what did he ask?
He asked if I was by myself. He was going to make sure there wasn't somebody missing or underwater or trapped under the boat or anything.
What was the official's name again? Do you remember?
I think it was Clint Johnson.
What a great, you can't, it's hard to teach that stuff. You talk about a natural intelligence, on the water intelligence to ask somebody, are you alone? Great question.
Well, I met him again at Moonshine Beach Saturday when I went and visited with Skeet. He wasn't Skeet's official that day, but he saw me and stopped and talked, and he told me, he says, man, that scared me.
I bet. Man, that's the thing you don't want to see on the water is a boat capsizing.
And he told me he took his vest off and threw it down because he didn't know if he was going to have to jump in the water and aid with a rescue or what, So he was on his toes too. Everybody was just so right on. I mean, no hesitation.
Yeah, no hesitation. That's the whole thing. As soon as your boat moved, you can see that instant move that Skeet Reese immediately is already on it. I mean,
he's reaching for me right there in that shot, and he just immediately snatches me out of the water.
I'll tell you what, now that nobody was hurt and everything, watch the expression on Skeet's face. I mean, you talk about in shock. You talk about a guy who's been through everything. You know what I mean? I mean, and nothing should surprise him basically. But watch the look as he's pulling you out right there. Look at the look on his face. I mean, it is. I'm going to back up just a little bit on that because it really tells the story right there of the only thing I can describe is a fireman in action. That's the fireman face right there.
His main thing is, are you all right? And I just shot right by him and ran to the front of the boat. You can still see my tackle bag.
Yep. There you go. You're all right. You're like, yep. Now, he does block the view right here, but you can watch to the right-hand side. You'll watch the engine
flip over. Yeah.
Now it's getting ready to flip, and it's turned. Completely turned now.
And there went my tackle bag right there. It sank when it had too much weight in it. It just sunk.
But the biggest thing here is the heck with the tackle bag. The heck with the lures.
Yeah, that's what
everything can be replaced. That man sitting right there on the front of Skeet's boat, your son, your wife, everybody in your life will tell you, not replaceable.
Right. Skeet convinced me not to keep swimming to the boat, and I'm so glad he did, because about the time I would have got my hand on that, it would have flipped over, and I could have been held under.
My wife's a paramedic, and all the first responders say that when people get hurt, it's running back into the building. They get out of the building, and then they think, oh my gosh, my checkbook or my dog, or if it's a kid, totally understand going back in. But people go back in for their journal or their Bible, whatever it is. Going back in is when people get hurt.
But and then of course I was in shock. I'm thinking, oh no, man, and I'm like, tie onto it quick. And Skeet's like, no, if it sinks, it'll take us all. And and I told Skeet the other day, it's Saturday, I said, that was kind of a stupid thing to say, but I was in shock, and I was thinking of what it took me and how long it took me to have a boat like that, after all these years of trying to get a decent high performance bass boat. I've had many boats, but that was the best one I had ever got. And I was gonna keep that boat through my retirement. I'm 57 now, and I'm heading toward retirement. And fishing and hunting is what I do. And where the boat is right there, Billy Fuller and his son helped me and tag teamed with me, and we drug that thing upside down from the middle of the lake over to where the motor housing was just above the bottom. So if it did decide to sink, I wouldn't lose everything. And their technique for turning that boat over was something to see.
Yeah, can you talk about that? I've heard this before, but I'd love to share it with everybody.
What they did is they got spun around and they got backwards to it, and they put 2 ropes across the bow and anchored them to the tie-offs on the good side of the boat, the part that wasn't busted. And then they put a single rope on the tow line hook on the front of the boat where you clip it to your trailer, where you winch it up to your trailer.
Right.
So then they just get it out in the water deep enough to where they just take off, and they start putting it under power, and the wake actually comes up onto the hull and presses it down, and then the ropes are squared off and it flips it over. And as soon as it flips over, they cut the 2 ropes loose and leave the single bow rope on it and just take off in a straight line as hard as they can go, and it pulls the water out of it and it gets it back up on plane. And they just kept it under power till they got back to the boat launch at Indian Point. And as soon as they hit the wake zone, they had a pump ready, and they fired it up, threw it in the boat, and it had like a 4-inch pump line on it, and it sucked the water out of it faster than it could go in.
Wow.
Got it back on the surface. Then they just put it beside their boat, and I backed the trailer in, but they just went ahead and put it right on the trailer for me. And then a man named Tyson from Specialized Marine was with him, and he went ahead and pulled my truck forward and got me out of the water because I was really starting to get sore. And Stone County Southern Fire brought me over in the fireboat and took me back to Indian Point to meet with them. And there's one thing that I remember, Christian, that's still sticking in my mind. I got off at the gas dock, and I had to walk the length of the dock to get around to the launch dock. And I walked by a trash can, and I seen the package where somebody had bought a new switch, and the kill switch cord was in the trash, still in the box. They took the switch out of it.
Oh my God.
I told Skeet about that the other day. I said, man, that's still riding on me, how people will buy a brand new switch and the kill switches are in the pack with it. And they felt not necessary to have, and just took the new switch and just tossed it in the trash. I couldn't believe it.
That's so sad.
And if they saw this, I don't think they would have threw that in the trash.
I agree.
I think they would have kept it.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, you and I were talking about the father and son. They're flying down the water, and they both the boat takes a hard left, and they both get dumped out of the boat, and did not have a kill switch. They had the flotation device, which was good, but the first thing a lot of people say is, I almost always wear my kill switch. And it's that one time that you don't.
That's when
this happens.
Yes. Yes.
So it's a terrible thing to happen to your boat. It's an amazing, blessing that you're still on this side of the grass. But what a great lesson for everybody that you had the kill switch and the PFD on, the life preserver, to make sure that you're still here. Look at that. Just the whole back just completely ripped.
And besides maybe killing me, it could have took off and hurt an innocent person, which
Absolutely.
if that had happened, I wouldn't want to live with it.
There's people that wear a life preserver, get knocked in the water, but they don't have a kill switch, so the boat goes in circles and runs over them and kills them.
Yes, or it could have took off in any direction and hit somebody else, somebody that had
hit another boat. It could have. I mean, so many bad things can happen. It's the combination of having both those kill switch and the life preserver on. Look at this.
And another thing about your kill switch, if your boat's still running and it turns over, it's going to ruin your engine. I mean, it's going to suck everything into your engine.
True.
So when my engine rolled over, the motor was already dead. So my son's a Marine tech, and he waited for me to get home with it that evening. And he went right to work on it, got the water out of it, got it fired back up. So we managed to save the motor, which anybody knows the motor is the most
half the boat for sure.
And so
maybe more than that.
I had a Garmin electronics too, and believe it or not, it came on after being submerged upside down I mean, it was completely underwater for probably 3, maybe 4 hours before we got it.
I'll tell you, YOLOtek, our office is about 5 miles away from Garmin International headquarters, and actually, I own printing companies. We did a ton of printing for Garmin. What an amazing, great company. Back in the day, they hired people, and then they found a good position for them. They really care about people, and their products show it. And that Garmin that took a spill on your boat and still is ticking, that's amazing. And the camera that recorded this whole thing was the Garmin VIRB XE, and it's one of the best cameras that's ever been made.
It's an awesome thing to have all them cameras on the power sticks, because there's nothing like live stream. I mean, it's an awesome way to go fishing with the guys. Just all you got to do is tune in, and you're right there in the boats with them. It's great.
And then let's go to this picture here.
Oh yeah, that was Saturday morning before. That was about 9:30, maybe 10 o'clock Saturday morning. Of course, they didn't get to launch till noon.
Oh, that's right.
Funny story. I went over there, and of course, Ricky wasn't there yet. And me and my son was just kind of walking around. So we walked out on that little pier that we're standing on there, and I seen 3 boats kind of hid over in the timber by themselves, and they had their power poles down, and I could hear them visiting. And I said, well, come on, son, let's walk over there and see who it is. So I started walking over there. Of course, I seen Skeet's boat right in the middle. And I walked up, and I just stopped in front of Skeet's boat. I said, hey, you boys ready to tear him up today? And they're like, oh, yeah, you bet. And Skeet goes, how you doing today? And I said, oh, I'm doing pretty good. And I just stood there and looked at him for a second. And all of a sudden, he took a double take and just sat up in the seat real quick. And he goes, you're Clark. Oh, my God. Hey, guys, this is the guy that wrecked. This is the guy I pulled out of the water. And, I mean, he just ran straight to me. Super guy. We visited. We talked about how I grew up on that lake and how the fishing's gotten better. And he's just a super guy. I talked to him about how his wife, Kim, had helped calm my wife down, because when she saw the video, she just went to tears. She realized how bad a wreck it really was then. It was just kind of talk until she saw the video that Skeet sent us later that night. But I didn't get to see Skeet out at the shooting range. And I went there to see him right after the wreck. But when he found out about it, he tagged my wife on Facebook that night, and he sent us a video, and we started chatting about it. It was amazing, the responses we got. I think he had like 1.2 million views within 24 hours and over 800,000 responses and likes. Way to go, Skeet. Way to go, Jeff, for having your jacket kill switch. And I never understood much about viral videos. I always heard my son talk about them,
and now you're in one.
Yeah, my 10 minutes of fame just went wild. And then, of course, my wife, she Facebooked all of her friends, and it has been shared to where she's had over 8,000 likes back to her just for what she said about Skeet being her angel. And for saving her husband. You know, I can't. I told Skeet Saturday, I don't know what to say other than thank you. You know, God bless you. I don't know what could have happened if you hadn't showed up. I would have made it back to that boat, and it would have rolled over, and I could have been out there by myself.
Yep. The timing is priceless in this moment because you're kind of in shock. You think about your gear, and Skeet, even if Skeet was 2 minutes later, you're probably underneath that boat. Is it flipping over? I mean,
I would have been grabbing that tackle bag. I know I would have.
Yeah.
That's where I was headed for. The weight of it would have put a good load on my jacket because it was even hard to carry. I'd have to throw the shoulder strap just to carry it from the truck to the boat because I kept everything in it. It had my scales, my pliers, scissors. I had all my plastics in one side, all my weights and hooks, and had probably 5 or 6 boxes of lures, and then I had several smaller boxes full of spinner baits. I was prepared. If I went fishing, I could find what they were biting on if I had to spend all day at it, you know. So I carried my life in that bag. I mean, I carried more than what most people do when they go fishing, but I carried everything that went after bass. I carried it all. So the only thing I've got left is a few ultralights and my ultralight tackle that I wasn't carrying because crappie season had already kind of passed and the bass were turning on.
Man, I guess you talk about setting all the records. Major League Fishing, 15 guys over 100 pounds. I mean, it's some crazy numbers. And then they were supposed to go to Grand, and then that flooded out. So then they are back on Table Rock. And yesterday, Jacob Wheeler caught 129 pounds of bass.
Oh, yeah. Even in the top 20s, they were in the 80s, 90-pound range. It's amazing. Everything was perfect this year for the bass. The spawn was perfect. The shad hatch was perfect. But the water's warming up fast. Table Rock warms up real fast. It gets busy quick, and it kind of drives the shad off into the distance. But if you can find those spotted bass schools right now, that's where they're hooking up. I mean, you get on them and you've got something. You find what they're hitting and you can stay on them all day.
Well,
so it's real good turnouts.
What an amazing lake. Table Rock is just an awesome, and I'll tell you now, I mean, there's already a lot of people that go to Table Rock fishing, but now there's going to be more because this has been an incredible ride with Major League Fishing, watching all this happen.
Yeah, I've been trying to keep up on live stream this week, but I've been working also. But my phone,
it's hard. It's full time.
I even sat through lunch today and watched them while I was taking my lunch break. But
I should also mention that so Ricky Bodsford, who handles some of Skeet's camera stuff, had set all that up for him that morning, and really want to give a shout out to Ricky for getting that camera in the right place at the right time, and to be able to, you know, we've been fortunate at YOLOtek. You know, our tagline is always be recording with YOLOtek, and we've had now 4 or 5 customers have viral videos. Our customers this year now, just those 4 or 5 videos have had 17, 18 million views. And that's cool. Most viral videos are entertaining in some way because that's how they get viral. But this one's special. This one can save a life, and so I'll say save many lives, but for sure someone's going to watch that video or this video or anything that's come from it and say, you know what, today I'm going to wear the kill switch. Today I'm going to do it.
I hope so. I hope I can haunt them to where every time they back down at the boat launch or back out of a dock slip, they'll remember Jeff Clark had his on and he's alive, and not take the chance.
I really hope that Table Rock and other people, because some people don't like talking about crashes, you know, and I understand that, but this should be on a billboard down at Table Rock for sure, with your face out there with your kill switch, wearing it like a badge of honor that it is. and getting people to wear the kill switch, wear the kill switch, wear the kill switch, and wear their life preserver.
And I've noticed that in Skeet's interviews right now, every time he's ended one here lately, he says wear that safety vest and kill switch.
Yeah, his Mercury moment the next later that day or the next day was definitely about this moment. He said he'll never forget this moment the rest of his life, and I don't think any of us will, because that's.
I'm not either. I'll never forget him or his lovely wife Kim. We've even told them if they're ever down here together, hey, we want to take them to dinner. I've got the most absolute respect for Skeet for what he did. And of course, all the other guys with Major League Fishing, they just give me the VIP treatment. And man, we're glad you're alive. Aaron Brashears, he's like, I'm so glad we're not burying somebody during such a wonderful tournament because we broke records. Ricky has been real good. He's took a couple of videos. He said that he might put something together, give him a few weeks, see what he comes up with. But if I can keep my face out there and keep letting them know, I'll do it. It's just, it makes me feel good to know that I can mean something over
Well,
it.
I've told you that I'm sorry it had to be you, but you're the guy, and we need to get your face and the pictures and video of this. Again, you just never know. The timing of this couldn't have been any more perfect, and the timing of planting those seeds in people's heads of, sure, they wear it a bunch of times. I can tell you, though, I know a bunch of people that have boats that used it for the first 3, 4, 6 months they owned a boat. And then after that, well, nothing happened. And, so why do I put this little thing on? But that's what's so cool about Major League Fishing. Every time they watch, every time they're on live and everything's live, that you watch them put on the PFD, you watch them connect the kill switch, and sure, it's probably required, but I mean, you just to watch them over and over and over. If a pro can do it, trying to win $125,000, then guess what? The rest of us can do it, just going fishing.
Yeah, and there's just so many safety tips you can do. I mean, a walk around. Always do a walk around before you get in the water. The other day, I forget which one of them it was. I had it on my mind. I let it slip off my tongue, but they were getting ready to take off, and he had a transom bolt broke, and he was getting ready to hit the lake. So of course they've got their maintenance crew there at Moonshine Beach, and they got him going and got him out there just as quick as they could. It's like the pit crew of the bass boats,
Well, I don't know anybody that didn't launch or almost launch their boat and not put their plug in.
Yeah, my father-in-law done that one time.
I don't know hardly anybody that didn't almost do that.
Yeah, man, since he did that, I always made. I mean, I had a routine walk around before I would ever launch my boat. And I always made sure the plugs was in. I would always make sure the live wells were drained and then closed back so they wouldn't fill up with water and create drag, I always looked at my transom, checked for cracks, you name it. Check your power trim, make sure it goes up and down. I've had power trim switches go out. You take off, and then all of a sudden that motor starts raising and it don't stop. And you've got to get off the throttle and get back there. But if you don't, it stands your boat up, and then you're in danger of flipping your boat. So there's technology out there now. There's rod holders that are safe. Eye protection. A lot of guys don't wear eye protection.
Think about that, yep. We've had some customers that a duck or seagull come off the water and go right by their head, just in a blink of an eye. Luckily, they don't get their head taken off by something like that.
Well, there's been times I would board my boat and I would get sand on my shoes, and it would get into the carpet on the bow, and you start picking up speed, get up 60, 65 mile an hour, and that sand starts coming out of that carpet, and it just starts sandblasting your face. You don't
Or
have
even
glass.
all the hidden logs, we call them gators, all the alligators that are hanging out there in the water that if you could hit and just in a nanosecond be right in the water.
Yeah, there's a Tennessee wildlife agency film out there where two guys was on their routine patrols. They just hit a pine log that was probably maybe only about 6 inches around and maybe 2 foot long, but they hit it just right to where it flipped them over. And they had inflatables on, but one of those failed where he had his Velcro strap across the mechanism that activates his jacket. And it's a YouTube video. I watched it the other day, and they had to use one jacket to get both of them in.
Wow.
But if you pull that up on YouTube, it is the Tennessee Wildlife Agency, and they've got a video there where they're back on the water in the same boat, and they explain what happened that day. And luckily they had their kill switch on, but one of the inflatable jackets failed, and it was due to the Velcro strap on it somehow. I'd have to watch it again to really know what happened. But I know and understand how comfortable the inflatables are to a fisherman. But I'm a true believer in a full vest. That's all. You don't have to depend on a charge to inflate it.
Right.
I mean, it's on. It works.
It's there, ready to roll.
It's ready to roll. And I noticed when Skeet pulled me out of the water, he was wearing a full vest. It looked to me like I don't know if it had an inflatable mechanism on it, but his jacket looked like it went all the way around under his arms and was full protection. But I'm not for sure. I'm just seeing what he had on the video. I didn't see him get dressed and take off Saturday. We went ahead and left before he suited up and they started.
So is your wife or son around by chance?
Yeah, they're both here. Matter of fact,
Come on in. We need to say hello.
this is my wife, Dawn.
Hi, Christian.
Hey, Don.
How are you?
Nathan's photobombing.
Oh, always. He's the center of attention in our family.
So, Don, I don't want to bring up too much emotion in you, but the first time you saw that video, what kind of went through your head?
Oh, I couldn't believe it. He called me at work and he said, honey, I've had an accident on the water and the boat's okay and I'm okay. And I just said, oh, okay, so what time does our son need to be at work? I'll go and get him on my lunch. And
Like yeah. And it's funny, he said the boat first and then him. That's funny.
always, yeah. The boat's always first in our family. So I just kept, I said, well, I'll just go get him and take him to work and I'll come back to work and I'll see you at home. Well, I got off the phone with him and I'm like, well, wait a second. He said he was in the water. He's cold. So I went into Walmart and I bought him a bunch of clothes. And I told my bosses, I said, I've got to go and check on him, please. And when I got there and I saw that boat, it was just ridiculous. I broke down. But when I saw the accident on the internet, I lost it. I did. I couldn't believe.
She cried.
He downplayed that just a little bit.
Yeah, just a tiny bit. Yeah.
Well,
He's trying to protect you. He protects stuff for sure.
He does. He's a good man. He tries to keep me, on a level that I don't worry too much about anything. But yeah, I have to say I broke down and I sobbed. I did.
I mean, it's a shocking deal, and you don't, because we're so far back, we don't see a lot of it. But man, you can't even imagine the pressure and impact that had. And the human body is amazing. I mean, look at him.
It is.
But when she saw Skeet's media page that night and actually saw the boat wrecked live, that's when she broke down. And I have to thank Kim Skeet's wife, Kim,
Yep.
because
Yep.
she tagged on and they've talked a little bit, and she really comforted my wife. And as another angler's widow, you know, because they're gone all the time.
Yeah, really.
You know,
So,
when he married me, he says there's 2 times a year that you can't tell me no. And I said, what is that? And he said, deer season and fishing season.
And
Well, I
who
didn't
knew that'd
realize,
be all year round?
yeah,
I didn't realize that each one was 6 months long and sometimes overlap. So
I got a question for Nathan. So Nathan I'm sure there was a time when I was a kid that my dad would pester me about doing this rule or doing that rule. What goes through your head when you know that the thing that saved your daddy was the thing on his wrist and the thing around his body?
I'm really proud of him of actually wearing them, for one. But with all that's going on and everything that did go through and how it did happen, I feel like if he didn't have his kill switch on that day, the boat probably would have ran him over.
Yep.
And then if he didn't have his PFB on, it probably would have, the impact of the water probably would have broke some bones and knocked the wind out of him, and he would have just sank.
Yep.
But yeah, the main thing there is always wear your safety equipment. Like, can't stress it enough. We learned it in Marine Tech. That's the very first thing we went over is boat safety and shop safety.
There you all be darned. Yep.
But
absolutely.
and it was nice to have him because he saved what he could of my boat. I mean, the engine is one of the most important things. That'd get me back on the water the quickest, and he jumped on it that night. He took off work and said, I'm waiting on my dad. He's had a wreck. I don't care if you fire me.
family comes first.
Family comes first. And he
Yep.
waited on me to get the boat home, and he went right to work on it. And he saved my motor. And I
And the
can't.
life vest and the kill switch saved my husband.
So the 3 things there are: wear your kill switch, wear your life preserver, and get your kid in Marine Tech school.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Any kind of mechanical school, because those are just needed know-hows. Plus, being a Marine Tech that I am, I also see a lot of other safety issues with boats. Like, hydraulic steering is nice and all, but there is still some play with that too. There's
Yep.
more maintenance. You got to make sure your fluids are good in your steering columns. But if you have cable steering, I can't stress it enough to switch over as soon as possible. Cable steering has caused more wrecks just by the wheel slipping out of a man's hand than hitting stuff in the water.
Wow.
Cable steering is actually really dangerous, and that's why anymore, the newer boats you see,
Yeah.
if it's over a certain horsepower, they won't put cable steering on it. Anymore, the newer boats that come out, the only time you really see cable steering is on like a 90 horse or lower John boat.
That makes a lot of sense, and that's another great tip out there too. If doing the walk around, checking everything out, these are things that, you know, we are all in such a hurry to get on the water fishing, and or pulling the kids on the tube, or whatever the case may be, all the fun adventures out on the water. But just taking a little time before, making sure you got everything ready to go. That's really
Wheel bearings. That's the main. How many times have we seen our guys heading to the lake and they're on the side of the road with a wheel gone?
Oh yeah, grease those. Check your trailer.
Keep your wheel bearings up on your trailer because you're putting them in and out of the water all the time.
Yep.
And all it
My
takes.
daddy taught us whenever we pulled into a gas station to get gas, we always went back and felt with the back of the hand, the tire and the
I'd wiggle
axle
mine.
pedal just to
I'd
make
grab
sure.
it, wiggle the whole boat, you know, and see if there was anything loose. And I'd put my hand on them because if they're warming up, there's something wrong.
Yeah,
Exactly. Something's going on. Whether it's a little bit or later on, it's going to get bad. So another good one. Well, I'll tell you what, it's been an honor to meet you guys, and whatever YOLOtek can do to keep spreading the word out there, because all the viral videos are cool and they're fun, but this one, we truly believe will save lives, and really proud of you for wearing your safety gear, and what a great role model you're being for your son and your family.
Well, you know, this last weekend, I'm friends with some police officers here in town, and they were out on the water having a good time, and I could tell, you know, they were taking pictures while the boat was running. And I got on there with him, and I said, you know, I'm glad you're having fun, but always treat your life vest like your seatbelt. If the boat's running, you better have that thing on, because you never know what's going to happen.
And one of them wasn't wearing his.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he says, well, they're nearby. I said, well, nearby is not going to save you if something like that happens to you that happened to my husband. And he sent me another picture, and he had it on. So
That's awesome.
you know,
Just day before yesterday, first time my son Dakota, 12 years old, almost, his birthday's tomorrow actually, and we were out on a stand-up paddleboard. First time he'd ever been on one, and then my aunt says, hey, he didn't put his life preserver on. Well, you just don't even think it. There's so many things that can happen there too. So
absolutely. Yeah. If you're out in open water, you need it on, even if you're an excellent swimmer.
Yep.
You just never know what's going to happen.
just never know. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much, and stay tuned for more action from the Clark family here. You never know who there'll be, but spread this video, spread the Skeet Reese video. Now over 1.2 million views. We want that to just keep being viral and keep spreading the word about safety. All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Christian.
We'll talk to you again someday.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.